Welcome to Real Talk, Real Advice, and Real Difference. I'm your host, Nathan Najib, and in this podcast, we bring you conversations from leading experts with experience, stories, and advice to help you become a better person, a better agent, and help the community and the industry for the better.
Today it's my greatest pleasure to bring to you the founder of Harris Real Estate, one of Australia's most dynamic and fastest growing real estate companies. Harris is an award-winning South Australian residential sale and property management agency. They sell over 1,800 properties a year and manage about over 3,000. From 5 staff in 2010 to 170 staff, 5 officers today. Please help me welcome Phil Harris. Thank you, Phil.
Pleasure, Nathan. Good to see you, and thanks for having me on to have a chat.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much for that. Today, what I want to chat about is obviously the real estate, what's happening and everything that's going on. And one of the challenges that we've had in our industry, we have a lot of people that are all show and no go, a lot of GCI and no net profit, a lot of big talk about volumes and no life. And you gotta be real careful about who you follow, what individual you pick as your role models, because they could obviously be leading you to that life as well if you're not careful. And I know you've been one of the guys that have inspired me over the years, and I know you've got it all right, like, great, amazing business that you run, family life, personal life. So thank you for being an inspiration to me, brother.
My pleasure.
Tell me, go back to when you started real estate, when you got into the business some 15, 17 years ago, Phil, was it?
Yeah, close to 20 now, I think.
It's close to 20, right? What was your introduction? Of who you speak in conferences about how it went, and what would your recommendation be for new agents coming on board, or maybe just started before everything that started happening, Phil?
I think for new agents starting out, I think it's it's very different starting out today than what it was 20 years ago. I think that it was probably harder to get access to resources 20 years ago. It was harder. You probably more had to jump on a plane or go and attend a conference to actually, get a hold of information. There was very kind of limited sales training. So I was probably one of the first pioneers in those days who would jump on a plane, once a month or whenever it might be. I'd be interstate or somewhere overseas attending a conference, doing the same things that people do today. But now you can do it, like today, you can sit here in the comfort of your lounge room. If you've got a MacBook and you've got an internet connection, you've got access to, literally the best training resource in the world. So now the challenge is different to what it was 20 years ago. Ability to access the information 20 years ago was harder, whereas now the ability to access is easy, but what stayed the same is the ability to actually implement. And so the observation now that we see between agents that do well and agents that don't, generally it comes down to that work ethic of actually doing the level of work required. And then secondly is that ability to actually learn good ideas, but good ideas aren't the secret sauce anymore. It's the ability to take those good ideas and actually get them into your business. That seems to be the secret sauce now, less about content, more about taking the content, because the content is everywhere. Mm-hmm. How do you get that content and then get into your business? That seems to be the major shift now.
Yeah. I've heard you spoken about old, outdated ways of doing real estate. And that would be a pretty good way to lose clients and destroy your career in current day and age. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Sorry, can you just explain that question again? I didn't quite catch that. Like my earphones broke up on me there, sorry.
I've heard you spoken about the old and outdated ways of doing real estate. And in my opinion, and you would agree with me as I've heard you speak, that's a great way to lose clients and destroy your career. Could you elaborate on that? What's your thoughts on that, Phil?
Well, I think the main thing now is just being the person that people want to deal with is, fundamentally, if your business philosophy is be the easiest agent in your marketplace to deal with, you're going to be successful. So really just think about how you'd like to be treated and then reciprocate that and provide that level of service platform in your marketplace. And so if you think about the challenges that consumers have these days, we're all busy. We've all got lots of things on our plate. And so people these days want to deal with somebody who's honest and upfront, gives them straight information, gets back to them quickly, provides value, and is pleasant to kind of be around. Doesn't sound that overly complicated, but if that's your model, but I think a lot of real estate agents can make that a little bit clunky and maybe make the process hard to deal with.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the old school and outdated concept was let's hide the information and then get people to call us. Now they don't call us; they just move on and try and deal with the easiest agent.
Yeah, that's right. I think we're in an era of transparency, which comes back to what I said, which is be a really easy agent to deal with. So, basic things of price guides and floor plans and open times and dates. Well, not open times at the moment, but speaking kind of where we used to be, of just being really easy to deal with. I think that's a great mantra for people to work with.
Sure. It's interesting you said price guide, and we use price guide. That's something that we do within Najib, and we've had good success. We got happy vendors, and they keep on recommending us to their friends and families because of that stuff. Can you talk about price guides a little bit and what is the importance of that?
I think and it depends on what part of the world or what part of Australia and New Zealand that you're kind of watching. But I've always found it crazy to first and foremost, if you subscribe to the fact that you want to provide a service model that people enjoy working with. Okay, if I'm out there buying a home, I've really got zero interest in having to kind of play a guessing game in terms of how much the owners want for the property, right? So, so it's about, once again, provide a product that consumers enjoy interacting with. Now, if there's no price guide on a property and I've got to ring an agent, leave a message, wait 4 days for them to call me back to find out whether it's even in my budget, I think that's a frustrating process for a buyer. And so, once again, it's that whole psychology. How do I make it easy for people to access this home?
Yeah. In turn, if we make buyers get them frustrated, we're not going to have enough buyers to buy the property, and we might have lost the best buyer.
Correct. Yeah. We know kind of research coming out from the larger online portals in Australia, like realestate.com, will tell you that properties that don't have price guides get 50% less web traffic than properties that do. So it's a pretty kind of compelling argument.
Now's a good time to talk about the new generation of agents. I'm not talking about the age, but I'm talking about how the new agents deal as opposed to the old agents. I've heard you again speak about what this new generation of agents look like.
I think kind of and it's less about chronological age and more about style of customer service delivery, but. I think the major thing that we've seen, obviously we've now seen the proliferation of social media and various other marketing channels. So there are different ways in terms of exposing property and different ways for people to interact with property, which is obviously being heavily highlighted throughout this kind of COVID-19 process. But probably the difference now, if I had to absolutely simplify it, I'd say the speed of communication for the modern day agent is far quicker than maybe what it's been in the past. And so agents' ability to, number one, provide a whole heap of transparent information right up front. But then secondly now, everything is about speed now. So how quickly people get back to customers, how quickly people can access a property, how quickly they can bring a deal together and buy a property. So it's all kind of been speed and service are probably the two major things that have improved dramatically in the recent years.
Even if you go back a little bit, talking about obviously to be able to do the speed, to be able to be do all those things that you just talked about, you need to be fit yourself, healthy. How important is that part of getting yourself right? Because I know you're quite big advocate of being healthy and looking after yourself.
Yeah, well, if anyone who knows me, it's one of the top few priorities in my life. I say that better people make better real estate agents. So reality is, I was just watching been online watching a Josh Fegan webinar today with a whole range of great agents from across Australia, and listening to them. I think Paul Curtin was one of the guys that said that energy equals success in this business, and that's absolutely critical. So if you look at the fundamentals of real estate, what it takes to be a successful salesperson, of being great at prospecting, listing, selling, those activities are actually relatively simple. And what gets in the way of people being able to execute those simple activities is, generally speaking, lack of stability in their personal life, be that lack of sleep, exercise, diet, lack of energy, all of those sorts of things. So I say, first and foremost, get the person right. And if the person's right, then the actual activities that need to be undertaken, they're actually quite straightforward to be a successful agent. So I think they go hand in hand. But yeah, certainly critical to me.
Sure, 100%. To be able to take care of others, your clients, your colleagues, your friends and family, you got to have yourself right. Right?
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, you can't take care of other people unless you're in a good space yourself. So, you need to have, good energy and emotional stability, and I don't think it's very hard. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without having, good, strong energy and good, healthy emotional energy as well. So I can deal with the stresses and the pressures of not only modern day real estate, but modern day family life as well. I'm married. I've got 2 young children. I'm, a busy guy. I've got plenty on. So I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself so I can help others.
100%. I totally agree with you. And that's one of the things that I've learned from people like yourself, that fitness is obviously health. If you're not healthy yourself, there's nothing else you can do for anybody else. COVID-19. Now, we think that we've got happening at the moment. I know you've had plenty of challenges over the years and obstacles, if you will. And the huge thing that we've got going on, obviously the pandemic, of course, is a challenge. What would be your suggestion for agents to pivot and navigate through these challenging times?
Well, I think that first and foremost, you've got to understand that all things do pass, right? So whilst COVID-19 is here and it's challenging and it's a struggle, and everybody who's listening has got their own kind of personal challenge to go through. Some will be harder for others and less so for others, and all those sorts of things. But 100% reality, what we do know, I'm a firm believer that all things do pass. So we will come through this. Will the world be the same on the other side of this? Probably not. There'll be some long-term permanent changes that are going to be affecting all of us. So I think if your mindset says, okay, this isn't a permanent issue that we have, this is a short-term issue. Maybe when I'm 95, sitting in my rocking chair, I'll go, you know what, that was an interesting 6 months or so that we went through back in 2020 with COVID-19. So I think that if we can have that optimistic mindset of going, yes, it's challenging, not downplaying or being non-realistic or not giving it any less severity than what it requires. Like, these are challenging times, but the reality is we are going to come through it. So for me, that's the first thing you've got to get your head around, right? And that helps you to actually move forward and go, okay, yeah, it's challenging, but we are going to come through. Second thing I think people need to do is you need to have your own kind of survival plan in place. And so if you're still in this place at the moment of not knowing if you're going to pay your bills, or not knowing if you're going to, your kids can go, like all this fear and worry based stuff, if you can kind of get your plan organized and lock it down. So if I speak about maybe my business, I say, well, hang on, we've made the financial reductions that we've needed to make. We've got our cash flows in place. We've got our staff organized. So from a business perspective, we may not have a record 12 months over the next 12 months, but I'm not sitting here with any fear or doubt, worried about the long-term future of Harris Real Estate. And so I've done that plan for both my business life and my personal life. So now I can kind of park the fear and the worry behind me and say, now I can just move through this and make the best of whatever the current environment is, if that makes sense. So I think that if you can get yourself to that point to say, yeah, okay, number one, I'm optimistic that it is going to come to an end. Number two, I've got my personal orders, personal space all in place, right? Which is financially, personally, business-wise, that's all under control. Now I can actually shift to a proactive mindset, which is, what am I going to do to make sure I'm actually a better husband, better father, better real estate agent, better business leader, on the other side of COVID-19. And that becomes a much more empowering conversation in terms of what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So they're probably the kind of 2 or 3 things that come to mind for me in terms of how we can best be managing these sorts of things.
Fantastic. That is great, because panic causes chaos, doesn't it? If you were to panic at these times, then everybody's going to be around you is going to crumble.
Yeah, and I think that as human beings, we all want certainty in our life, which is we want certainty about our incomes, we want certainty about our health, about our kind of roofs over our head, all those sorts of things. And the reality is, we're all being tested at the moment to live with a lack of certainty in our life, which is what creates the anxiety, the panic, and the fear and the worry. So it's about how we move through that.
Sure. Brilliant answer. Hey, in our industry, what we've had problem was obviously people don't know how to manage their freedom, and time management is a real issue. I know you're an amazing time at time management. What are your important routines? What was it? What is it now? And what do some of your best people do? What are their ideal day and ideal week look like? Routines and momentum, if you will, Phil.
I think the main thing around kind of time management is just establishing patterns in your life, right? And those patterns vary from person to person. So anybody who's listening to this, you might have, someone who's, 23 years of age, second year in real estate, not married, no partner, living at home with mum and dad. So their ability to have more flexibility and the ability to work longer hours and to go harder and longer, that's a different conversation to maybe somebody else who's watching right now, who's a single parent, single mother with a 3-year-old child or something like that, who's a real estate agent. So everybody's got their journey to take, and everybody's got different lifestyles that are all affiliated. So first and foremost, you've got to understand that there is no one approach. Once you understand that, you've got your own journey. Secondly, is to establish those patterns for your life, right? And so, Dr. Fred Gross talks about, the big rocks in your life. So establishing what those big rocks are and just building a weekly plan and then doing your best to stick to it, but understanding you won't always get it right, and that's okay. So if you think about the big rocks in your life, generally speaking, the things I encourage people to put into their week first, if you're going to set up effectively a time management plan, the first thing you put into your week for me is critical, is always putting your time off. So as a real estate agent, it might be you don't work Sundays and maybe you don't work Fridays, but it's a full day Saturday. So that would be a big rock to me. Second big rock I'd put in my diary that I'd be locking in on a permanent basis would be the days and the times of the week that I exercise, right? So whatever time that is for you, most people, first thing in the morning is preferable. But once again, if you're a single parent with a 3-year-old child, that might not be a possibility, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to work that out. So lock in, exercise. Next key thing, if you're a real estate agent, would probably be daily prospecting. Everybody needs to find 1 or 2 hours per day to prospect. So I'd actually go ahead and I'd book that out as a calendar appointment in my diary as a recurring appointment. And so there's probably 4 or 5 key things that you would just lock in there, Nathan, and say, now I've actually got some regularity and some structure around how I'm actually going to conduct my business, right? Now what it comes down to is having that discipline to actually front up to those appointments and execute every single day. So that's kind of some basic things of how I set up my life. And then I've got other, strategies that I use to help me stay on track. Like I'm big on what I call life planning. So I have goals for my business life and my personal life and my family life. I conduct things like a weekly review where I'll go back and I'll look at my last 7 days and I'll look at my next 7 days and I'll look at my personal business plan and kind of have a weekly summary. I have a monthly catch up with my wife to kind of almost in a business format to talk about our family in terms of a few things about our kids, where we're at kind of financially, because we've got combined family financial plans and goals. And so I've got kind of some other strategies that we put in place that help me to stay on track with what I'm doing.
Beautiful. As one of my earlier mentors says, routine sets you free.
Absolutely. And I think that, some people say, look, I don't want to be too structured, okay, that's fine. But you're right. The more routine you have, then the more productive you are, it actually does give you more freedom. I think that people say, I've got no routine, I just like to wing it. Well, I don't like having a clouded headspace where when I'm at home with my kids, I want to be at home with my kids and not checking my phone and my voicemail. If I'm on holiday, same thing. I think if you don't have structure, you don't have routines in place, I think everything just kind of blends into one. You're doing personal life and business life and personal time. And so I think getting those structures help you to get some kind of real quality time around that.
Life is too precious to not design it. Just run around, just do things as it happens, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're not here for a long time. And, I'm in my late 30s now. I kind of used to be the young guy in real estate. Now I'm almost, the middle-aged guy in real estate. It's gone. I just can't believe how quick it's gone. And so, you want to make the most of it.
I'm catching up to you, Phil. Don't you worry about that. Hey, can I get you to talk about, I know you kind of covered that, but I want you to talk about a balanced success, because as I said earlier, we've got, in this business of real estate, we look up to people who may have the business life right, but if you look behind the scene, it's a mess. And like I said, if you're not careful, you'll open your eyes and you're like, oh wow, I don't want to be here. What would a balanced success? Because I know you've got a beautiful family, you've got an amazing business that you're running, you've got good values. Getting our head, our heart, our soul, and our mind right. What's your thoughts on that, Phil?
Well, I think balanced success is in the eye of the beholder. So it really comes down to your own personal values and establishing what that is for you. And so I can only speak through the narrative or the lens of what I look through, and that balance. If I look at what's important to me, well, my family is a strong priority in my life. My business is a strong priority in my life. My physical well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of those things are super important to me. And so I guess I'm very deliberate in those areas of my life in dedicating time, effort, and strategy in all of those areas to make sure that I'm feeling fulfilled in those areas. The last thing you want, success without, you've heard the saying, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So there's no point, having a great business, but then, being totally miserable in my personal life. So, so I have a philosophy, which is, life for me is about, continually striving to become the greatest version of myself. That's all I'm doing. And that's not something that I kind of wake up and go, okay, I'm going to try and be the best version of myself today. All right. It's a lifestyle decision, 24/7, 365 days of the year.
Yeah.
How am I continually evolving, improving, and becoming better in every aspect of my life?
Yeah. Tell me, that is, you didn't used to be like that. Like in my earlier career in business, I had role models, and the role models were leading me to wrong places. So it wasn't a balanced success. So I decided to drop that. Who are some role models that you've looked up to in the past? Lucky breaks, if you will, like, people that you've met, went to a conference, met somebody like, oh wow, that is kind of life I want to live.
It's interesting. You mentioned the word lucky breaks, and I'm a firm believer in, things happen for a reason. And I think that everybody, call it faith, call it luck, call it the grace of God, whatever you want to call it. Most of us, anyone who's done well in life, have had certain breaks that have gone your way. I certainly don't think that it's, entirely self-made, but I guess from a real estate perspective, first and foremost, as a human being, my parents have played a massive role in my life. So just in terms of my personal values and my belief structures and all of those sorts of things. So parents have been kind of pivotal to me, but we speak specifically through that real estate lens. I think in the early days, I think I attended my first AREC at like 21 years of age, and I was fortunate enough, back in those days, it was held in Sydney, not on the Gold Coast, and I kind of sat back row in the bleachers as a 21-year-old. I think I'd been in real estate for about a year. I'd kind of just started to go okay. and I saw John McGrath deliver a presentation that day, and that was probably a life-changing moment for me, hearing what John had done. And as I said, it's going back almost 20 years ago now, hearing what he'd done in his business, and that inspired me. And at that stage, you've got to understand, I was kind of less than a year into real estate. And I thought, oh, what if I could build a company, something like that back in Adelaide? And so that was probably the key catalyst of that lit the spark, if that makes sense. So it was kind of that lit the spark of going, okay, what's possible? And then I look at other just great agents from across the country who have inspired me and I guess lit me up. People like James Tosterman, people like Josh Fegan, people like, Matt Steinway. Like following these people over the years, and when I first started, I looked up to them as like giants, almost like celebrity status agents. And ability. And I built relationships with these people, and then my career started to blossom, and then I built personal relationships with all of these people. And now I'd say that the vast majority of people I speak about these days I call them personal friends. They're happy to help me out, and I lean on them, and they lean on me, and we share ideas.
Absolutely, that's gold. I mean, you become over time a good friend of mine. And every time I've asked you, you've always helped me. Now, tell me, what successful people think if we reach out to successful people, they want help. But the reality is the real successful people are the most given, the most humble, the nicest people on earth. What has your experience been like?
Yeah, I'm yet to meet somebody who's super successful. If you take the time to reach out, most people are more than willing to give you some guidance and assistance. So I don't think that's the issue. I think that the issue is with people. There's not many people that actually genuinely do want to reach out and genuinely do want to improve. A lot of people are kind of happy just living status quo. So it's not that people won't help. I think it's more that people won't reach out. I think that's probably more the issue.
Yeah. Like the saying goes that I can't want success for you. You got to reach out.
Absolutely, yeah.
You talk about the foundation and values. Your parents have played a big role in your life, obviously, getting that foundation right, which thankfully I've been quite blessed with beautiful parents too. And then obviously you've got hard work. And I know you're a bloody hard worker. Tell me the importance of values when it comes to your company, your agents, and your family.
Well, I think values at a company level, they're the values that we have at company level have probably primarily been driven through my personal values that have then kind of infected the company. So it's kind of been. Harris Real Estate, it's grown beyond being Phil Harris now, that's for sure. But the company values are an extension of my personal values. And so without being specific about what our values are, but just the values that are instilled into me from a family or cultural perspective are, first and foremost, doing the right thing by others. Number two, making sure you help as many people as you possibly can. Number three, taking care of yourself. So just basic family values that got instilled to me. That's basically the essence of what we've tried to establish inside our real estate business.
You said values come from the top, good or bad. Doesn't it so well?
Yeah, well, I think that I heard some other quote the other day saying that, something around everyone will, you don't get a choice as to whether you leave a legacy in life. The only choice you have is whether you leave a good or a bad one, So reality is, whether you've got good values or bad values, that will be the essence of the organization that you're running. So if that's the case, you might as well make them good ones.
Love it. I know you're obsessed, just like I am, on self-development and training, and that's why we're doing these webinars to help not just me for my selfish desire to get to talk to Phil and John and all these amazing people, but also to help people out there, the agents that are on their way But if you could just talk about the importance of self-development and what's your thoughts on your top people, what they do.
Yeah, well, I think self-development to me is critical. It's something that I work at every day. As I said, when you talk about those areas of your life, whether it be mental, physical, financial, emotional, all those sorts of things. So I'm constantly working and reading and studying and growing and learning in all of those areas. And that's what we've done within our organisation. Once again, it's kind of, that's an extension of who I am, and I've done my best to share as many of those kind of habits or philosophies across our high performing people. And so every year with our top teams, we do full planning days. We do goal setting for both personal life and for business life. And I've just really tried to share and pass on as much of the stuff that's worked for me with as many other people as I possibly can.
Nice. You talked about just before. You talked about what legacy you want to leave behind, because our time is fleeting, and I know death is upon us one day. Tell me, how do you see? You're quite stoic. I know. What's your thoughts on death, and what's your purpose today, and what do you want to leave behind?
Well, I guess my purpose or my mission is to serve, grow, and inspire as many people as I possibly can. That's kind of my daily mantra. Is effectively, how can I help as many people out as possible? That's what I try to achieve every day. In terms of the legacy, I guess for me, the Harris family hopefully will live on a lot longer than after I've kind of been and gone. So I'm taking those values and those beliefs that have been instilled into me and passing them on into my children. So at this stage, I've got 2 boys. And so my, whatever it is that I'm fortunate enough to be blessed with in my time on planet Earth, I hope that I can leave a legacy to my boys and they can kind of 100 times fold that. So I hope that whatever I'm fortunate enough to receive, I hope they can do it far bigger, far better, and affect far more people than what I've been able to do. And so I think hopefully that's the goal of every parent out there, is that your children will supersede you and go on and do far bigger and greater things. So in terms of the legacy, taking what I know, helping my children to learn that, and hopefully they can pass the torch on to their children, and so on and so on. So that's probably my belief structure around legacy.
That's beautiful. Remember, I've got to remind little Oscar that I bought him his first suit, if you remember.
Yeah. And I think there's a pair of sunglasses in there as well. So thank you.
Right. Tell me, you doing 3 training, which has also been emailed to all the real estate agents in New Zealand. And why do you do those things? Why do you give? I know you're a busy man. What is obviously helping is what one of your mantras, as you said. Tell us more about the webinars, if you will.
Yeah, no, look, they've been great. We're running a 3-week series webinar. We've just done the first 2 weeks. We've got our final week next week. But it's been great. We've had, for both sessions so far, we've had over 1,000 agents from all over the world tune in both weeks so far. So I think we've reached almost 2,500 people now through that webinar series, specifically agents. But really, it's just an opportunity to help a few people out. I have a passion and a love for training and helping and growing people. As I said, serve, grow, and inspire people. That's my daily mantra. So, Real Estate Institute of New Zealand, they've been great to me. I was actually meant to be in New Zealand doing some speaking for them, and that couldn't happen. And so I spoke with Kirsten Brown at REI NZ. She said, why don't we maybe try and get a webinar going? We've had like 4 or 5 agents from New Zealand who have been a part of that program as well. So for me, it's certainly self-gratifying to, I feel good about helping others. And so it's got a bifold effect. We get to help people and it makes me feel good about what I'm doing. So it works.
Yeah. I was asking John McGrath he's done training that Eric is free along with Tom Panos. They've done some sort of arrangement that you can go online and watch Eric for free. And I was saying I appreciate. I enjoy what you do, and that's what I like to live by. Like trying to help people do better than what they thought they were capable of doing. Hence the podcast and things we're doing. And he's doing the same thing. And obviously, you're an amazing man, and I appreciate you for over the years what you've helped me with, Phil. You've been a great inspiration, and thank you very much. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Nathan. I'll no doubt I'll speak to you soon, and all the best with your podcast series. All right.
Thank you very much. Say hello to the family for me. Take care.
Yeah, well, take care, mate. Thanks. Bye. Ciao.
Bye. Bye.